Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be doing another ranking video, but this is a first for the channel. I'm going to be doing my first director ranking video. Now particularly I would like to do standalone movie reviews before I do a full ranking of a director, but I didn't really have time because a lot came up last month and things just got in the way. But I did review Thanksgiving. If you'd like to check that out, I'll leave it in the link down below. And with the release of Thanksgiving, I thought this might be a good time to check out all of Eli Roth's movies. Apart from 2 movies in the same franchise, there are a lot of standalone films here. Quite a little bit of variety, although most of them are in the horror genre. And I thought it might be fun to go and check them out. And even though there's a movie in last place, of course, there has to be, I had a fun time with all these films. I wouldn't say any of them are terrible or particularly bad. I would say all of these are watchable movies, but something had to come last, so don't think I hate that movie or anything, and everyone's list is going to be different. Yours shouldn't really match mine. We all have different tastes, so leave your rankings down below in the comments and I'll try and get back to you all, I promise. We'll get a little bit of discussion going there. So let's just get into it now with 8th place in this Eli Roth ranking video. So first up in this ranking, or last should I say, we do have Knock Knock. Now I'm going to be honest here. I think this movie may be higher if it wasn't for the ending, but more on that in a minute. But this is a home invasion movie with an interesting little twist, really, because Keanu Reeves answers the door to these beautiful looking women, and he's actually let them into his home while his wife's away because they're complaining of, you know, being wet through because of the weather. They got lost. They were on their way to a party. So him being the kind gentleman that he is, lets them into the house and just starts to have conversation with them while they're waiting for this Uber to turn up. And things start to get a little bit steamy. There's some weird dialogue here and there that makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I get that Eli Roth was going for that. These girls just start to talk about sex and stuff, and Keanu Reeves doesn't quite know what to make of that, and they try to coax him into a threesome, and that eventually happens. And the next day, they are in his house and they will not leave. Now, I don't want to get into too many more spoilers than that, but things go from good, I suppose, but not really because he's kind of cheated on his wife, to bad, to terrible for Keanu Reeves. And this just starts to spiral into something that is basically out of his control with these 2 women. Now, I was really interested in what was going on throughout this movie. I was intrigued. I was wondering, what are these girls doing to him? Why are they doing this to him? And in the end, when you find out why they were doing it and stuff, I really did not know what to make of it. And it really brought the movie down for me on a whole. Like I said, this could have gone up a place or 2, but the ending really does ruin the entire film, because I don't know what Eli Roth was trying to say here, whether this is a man-hating movie, a woman-hating movie. It tries to lean into man-hating, but it makes women look bad as well. I just don't think he got the message across here whatsoever or what he was going for. But the movie has a lot of funny moments in it too. Like, Keanu Reeves' acting is just so over the top here. I don't think I've ever seen him act this bad before. I don't know if it's intentionally bad, because he is a good actor, from The Matrix and Speed and stuff, John Wick, to him having his head buried in the sand and just screaming stuff at these women. It was just so weird to watch. So yeah, one of the most out there acting performances I think I've ever seen. There's a scene where he goes on this big monologue and it's just like, holy shit, Keanu Reeves is just either having so much fun here or he's trying too hard. I didn't know.
It was free pizza! Free fucking pizza! It just shows up at my fucking door! What am I supposed to do?
But if you're a fan of Ana de Armas, gentlemen, I'm talking to you, or ladies, if you like ladies, Ana de Armas does reveal a little bit in this movie. So just that might be a reason for you guys to watch it. I don't know. But you know what? I would return to this movie. I think it's probably more watchable than a couple of movies on this list, and I would watch it with friends to have fun. But I do think that ending just kills the movie, and every bit of mystery and intrigue that I was interested in just made me roll my eyes. So in 8th place, we do have Knock Knock. Coming up in 7th place, we do have The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Now, this is probably Eli Roth's most mainstream movie, if you like. He has done one family-oriented film, and it's this one. And I didn't quite know what to make of this going in. I didn't really know anything about the novel. I was just watching it because I was going through Eli Roth's movies, and it was probably the one I was looking forward to the least. But to be honest, I quite enjoyed this movie. However, it's probably going to be the least memorable one on this list, and the one that I probably will not return to anytime soon. But do we follow this young boy who has to go and live with his uncle because his parents have died? And his uncle is Jack Black. And he is got this friend played by Cate Blanchett. And he basically finds out that his uncle is a bit of a warlock, or a failed warlock. And Cate Blanchett's character is this really clever witch. Yes, it's getting a little bit strange already, isn't it? And soon as the movie progresses, this young boy releases this evil warlock that is somehow tied to the house, and they have to find this device in the house to stop this guy from basically rewinding time, so him and his wife can be the only ones left in the world and everyone else is dead, basically. So it's going back to the beginning of time, so them two can just be there on their own. Very, very strange concept, I must admit. And it did lose me a little bit at times. For a family-oriented film, I think children might struggle to keep up with this, even though it's probably a little bit of a good gateway in horror for them. It's more of a fantasy movie, but there's horror elements here and there. Some moody-looking sci-fi, CGI, I must say, but I think kids will get along with that. But the best part about this movie with Jack Black and Cate Blanchett, the chemistry between them was really fun to watch. I loved how they bounced off each other, and they really made the movie. Jack Black lit up the screen every time he's on, and thankfully he is in most of this movie. I just kind of thought this was watchable and nothing much more to it. I thought, yeah, I mean, I kind of know where this was going. It kind of felt predictable, even though, I mean, I was getting lost in the movie a little bit, but the story arcs felt predictable. You kind of knew where it was going to end up, and it did. So for me, this is a movie that I'm probably not going to return to anytime soon, if ever, but it wasn't ruined by a silly ending like Knock Knock was. So that is The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Next up, we do have Death Wish. Now, I've got to be honest, I have never seen the original Death Wish. I know this is a remake. I haven't actually seen any of the 5 original movies. But because I was just watching Eli Roth films, I decided to give this one a go, obviously. Now, this stars Bruce Willis, who his family are put in a bad way, put it this way. Like, I'll just be honest now, it's not really too much spoilers. It happens at the start of the movie, but his wife is killed and his daughter is put into a coma by these people who break into their house. And Bruce Willis is this really well-respected surgeon, and he sees all this crime and people who've been shot around the city coming into his hospital all the time. This city kind of reminded me of old Detroit from RoboCop, because there is just crime at a massive high. There's news reports here and there reporting on crime and how bad the city has got. So Bruce Willis decides to take matters into his own hands after not really getting much help from the police. Like, the police, he goes into the police station and they're just dealing with all these cases, and he thinks to himself, they're not going to solve my wife and daughter's case. I'm going to go after these people myself. And you know what? It's your typical revenge movie. I do like these typical revenge films, but it's a very generic movie. It just feels, again, very predictable, and you feel like you've seen it all before, but done better in movies like Nobody, for example, which is on another scale. Death Sentence from James Wan. Them movies do feel like they are a step above Death Wish, and they do the same sort of thing, but they just feel like they have more heart and punch to them. Whereas this one just felt like I said, the most generic movie, quite possibly on this list, to be honest. I just didn't quite know. It didn't really have too much to say. I mean, it just felt like it was put out there to please some audiences and put Death Wish in the title and just think, yeah, people are going to watch this because it's a Death Wish remake. We do have Bruce Willis sort of being painted as this superhero in the movie by all the news reports and stuff. Kind of like RoboCop again, where you do see news reports here and there. It did remind me a little bit of that. And these news reports are questioning people whether this guy is doing the right thing, because no one really knows who Bruce Willis is. They are just video footage of him getting revenge on criminals because he's got this hood up. Yes, no one can see his face because he's got a hood up. In this day and age, I do think someone would have captured this guy from the front, but yeah, the movie just goes with it. And they're kind of touting him out to be like this superhero, this vigilante, and they're trying to ask whether people are on his side or not. The movie does paint this picture of trying to say, is this the right way to go out the law in reality and stuff? I think that's the only thing it really had to say. Unfortunately, Bruce Willis, look, I don't want to get too much into this because I know he's had this horrible illness for a while now, and maybe this was part of it. This was filmed in 2018, so I think he may have either had this or was in the process of this horrible illness. But he was definitely miscast, if you like, because he doesn't feel like his heart and soul are in this, and I do feel like that could be part of that. We didn't know this at the time, but it just feels like he's being this character that has just been put in there, said, please just read off this script, basically, and do your thing. It didn't feel like there was a real character in there, put it that way. He done an okay job, but there's nothing interesting really about him, unfortunately. So for me, probably the most generic movie in Eli Roth's filmography here, but I would probably return to it at some point. But I didn't absolutely love this film. It was fine. Next up, we do have Cabin Fever. Now, I absolutely loved this movie when I was a bit younger. I put it off for a while. I don't know why. Then I finally watched it and thought, wow, that was a really good film. And upon rewatch, unfortunately, I didn't think it was as good, but I still had a ton of fun with it. I just seen some of the glaring problems that it had on this rewatch. Now, basically, this follows a group of 5 friends. Yes, there's always 5 friends, isn't there, in these movies? Look at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for example. There just always seems to be a group of 5. Don't know why, that's the magic number. But they go to this cabin, and this guy knocks at the door who has been infected by this virus, and the virus starts to spread amongst this group of friends here in really a way that is quite disgusting and starts to sort of peel their skin off and stuff like that. It's not a very pleasant virus that these characters get. It was fun. There's plenty of gore, like in a lot of Eli Roth's movies. I mean, I'll probably mention the gore a little bit more in the next few films, but there are scenes that really do make your stomach squirm a little bit, and there is one moment where a girl's face looks like it's been peeled off. I thought that was quite grotesque. And the movie just sort of is an interesting concept with having the cabin in the woods feel, but without a slasher killer going around. It's this invisible virus, if you like. I think the characters were fun at times, but other times unlikable. Like, there was some funny lines of dialogue in this movie, and I was laughing my ass off, but then sometimes they would say something, and I'd just like, really? Like, I don't know if it was just the time, but everything is gay in this movie. Like, they go, oh, that's so gay, or I'm going to go and shoot some squirrels because they're gay. It's just like, what? Like, who wrote this movie? Eli Roth, I believe. And so sometimes it was funny, and sometimes I was like, that's just so weird to say these things. There are some side characters in this movie who are just so wacky and zany. I don't know if Eli Roth was going for a comedic deal here, but like the shop owner guy, and Eli Roth himself comes along as this stoner character. There's just no point to his character whatsoever, apart from showing him being dead later on. So for me, it was fine, but my biggest problem, apart from some of the characters being okay, is the main lead. I don't think Paul was a great character. I think his name's Paul, to get behind. He was just so wooden in his performance. I just couldn't take to the guy at all. But like I said, lots of violence, lots of grotesque scenes. Like, there's characters taking other characters out because they've got this virus. Smashing their faces in with like hammers and stuff like that. The ending was a bit strange. I was finished and I was like, what the hell is this weird ending that they've gone for here? I just didn't get it. Another problem with the movie is cabin movies are meant to feel secluded and there's nowhere to go, but there's characters coming from left, right, and centre here, like just knocking on the cabin, like Eli Roth's character, like I mentioned, just turns up at a campfire with a load of weed. It's strange. It's a strange movie. Probably one of the strangest movies on this list, if not the strangest. But it's an entertaining time enough. It just has some glaring problems, that's all. But I had a lot more fun with it than the previous 3 films, and this is probably one I'd return to more than them. So that is Cabin Fever. Next up, we have The Green Inferno, a first-time watch for me, and I heard this movie was absolutely brutal going into it, and that was music to my ears. I love a bit of brutality in my movies. The more blood, the better. Hey, what can I say? I'm a horror fan. Now, this follows this young university student who wants to make a difference. She's not happy with what's happening to people in foreign countries with involving females and stuff, and she wants to join this Greenpeace group, if you like, who want to travel to the rainforest, or was it jungles of Africa? I can't quite remember, but they want to make a difference. I think it's the rainforest, yeah, because they're cutting all these trees down and stuff, and she wants to make a difference, get over there and get in with this group, and this group decide to take matters into their own hands and sort of travel to this rainforest and make a difference and protest against all these people who are cutting down the trees and stuff like that. And she goes along with them, even though she's only been friends with these people for about a week or something. She decides to go, and this quickly turns into something sinister, where they are leaving on a plane, and the plane crashes, and all these jungle natives who live in the jungle take them captive and take them to the little village, and they are in fact a bunch of cannibals. Now, I think Eli Roth done very well to capture the cannibal holocaust, cannibal ferox type vibe, you know, of them shocking movies that came out in the 70s and 80s. I think he was going for that to put it in a modern day setting, and I think he did make that work for the most part. It did feel like you were watching one of them movies in a pristine 1080p picture, basically. And this movie does absolutely go for it. There are some absolute horrible brutality in this film. I think one of the death scenes in this movie might be the best death scene in an Eli Roth film, where this guy is mutilated in front of his friends by the jungle folk, limb from limb. His tongue's cut out, his eyes are took out, his arms and legs are chopped off. It's something gory to see. So if you're a gorehound, you might be interested in seeing that. And the movie just sort of goes from there. They kind of know they're next. They're all locked in this cage, and it's up to them to try and escape. Now, there is some... What I liked about... I'll just say what I liked about it. I liked all that. I liked them, you know, the whole setup, them trying to get out, trying to think of ways to escape these cannibals and get out the jungle. It's a fairly generic movie, like I said, about death. A generic story, must I say. I mean, it doesn't do anything too bold or too out there. It's your typical cannibal movie about people getting lost in the woods or the jungle or the rainforest, whatever you want to call it. But some problems with this movie was one of the characters. I hated the guy. He might be one of the most unlikable characters I've ever seen in a movie. At one point, he's jacking off in the cage, and they're all like, "What are you doing?" He's going, "Oh, I've got to release some tension." And I'm like, "You're about to be eaten by cannibals, man, and you're just sitting there jacking off."
Used to find a release.
What's wrong with you, man? Everyone is fucking dying, you're fucking jerking off, you sick fucking asshole!
Also, one of these guys, like, this girl is dead in the cage, and they think that she's going to be next because she's already dead. So these cannibals are going to take her body and sort of cook her up. So one of these characters decides to put a load of weed down her throat, and the cannibals cook this woman and all get high. And then the cannibals come over to the cage because they want more, because they've got munchies. Yes. A very silly choice from Eli Roth, but I couldn't help watch this and just laugh my ass off at how stupidly hilarious it was. I've noticed this with a lot of the Eli Roth movies like Cabin Fever and Knock Knock and this. I don't know if this is intentional comedy or not, but damn, he can sure as hell make an entertaining film. So for me, I actually quite liked this movie despite it being absolutely ridiculous. So for me, I gotta put Green Inferno just above Cabin Fever there for how much it actually made me laugh. But be aware as well, this film is absolutely brutal in some places. It's a fine balancing act there, which he does much better in the next movie I'm going to talk about. Coming in third place, now just before I say this, guys, these three movies may turn around in future. This movie might actually go to first upon rewatch. I can see myself returning to this movie plenty of times in future. But I don't want to do any recency bias, and I'm still not quite sure if it's better than the top two. But in third place, we do have the newest Eli Roth movie, Thanksgiving. Now, I went to the cinema with my wife to watch this last week, and we had an absolute blast with it. This was such a fun time, and for me, it was a modern slasher done right, and it was everything I wanted from the slasher genre. I live for slasher movies, and this one just delivered. So we do have a Thanksgiving holiday horror movie now. I think there's a couple more, but I have not seen them. But this is one that you could probably watch every Thanksgiving. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving here in the UK, but I suppose that just makes it better for me because I can watch it anytime, I suppose. Now this sees a bunch of greedy consumers, I suppose, who run into a Black Friday event at 12 o'clock at midnight, and a few people are killed in a big accident there. And a year later, some of the people responsible for that accident are being targeted by a killer called John Carver. That is the name of the killer in the movie. It's not a spoiler. That's just what he's referred to as the movie. That's not revealing who the killer is or anything like that. And I gotta say, the unique design of this guy was awesome. I loved the whole look of him, the mask, the hat, everything was on point, and that axe that he's got with killing lots of people in, chopping them up, awesome. Now, what I loved about this movie, like, I'm not usually a fan of comedy in horror, but like I said just before, my previous ranking with the Green Inferno, Eli Roth gets a very fine balance and act there, but probably way better than the Green Inferno and Cabin Fever, really. This movie was so funny at times, and I was having so much fun, but then the gore is ramped up in the next scene, and it sort of takes you back, and you stop laughing and sort of just fix your eyes on what's going on the screen. I loved how corny these kills were and how ridiculous they were, because the killer is coming from all sorts of creative angles, but I love how he's like killing people who are eating corn on the cobs, and then he'll just put his foot on the corn on the cob as it's rolling along the floor, or he'll drag his axe and scrape it along as he's about to kill someone. It's got all that 80s slasher movie cheese put into a modern horror movie. And if this movie was filmed in the 80s and didn't look as pristine in 4K and stuff, it would be absolutely a honor. It's kind of a love letter to slasher fans, I feel, because it just felt like everything I wanted in the movie. And one thing I like about slasher movies is when they do the characters right. There's a lot of slasher movies who are just there for fodder and stuff, and I've heard a few people complain about the characters in this movie, but for me, I quite liked this bunch of characters. They're popular kids at school, and it doesn't usually go that way. It usually goes at the other end, where it's the unpopular kid or the geek, and we've got to get behind them as they sort of become a little bit more popular by killing the villain or whatever. But no, these were just already kind of popular. They were very sporty people and got with the rich girls and stuff. But I thought they were likable. They had personality, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, though. There was a couple of problems with the movie, mainly due to the last 20 minutes, where there's a few horror traits, characters just being injured and, not making the right decision to kill the killer when they can. And we also have some things that stood out with the killer, like he kind of is 4 or 5 steps ahead of someone. There was 2 characters in the movie who go for a little smooching session in the school, and he just knows that they're going to be there and has anticipated that. And there was other times where he was putting bodies at very high places, and I was like, how did he get the body there? Yeah, I mean, you've got to sort of take yourself out of it. But I had a great time with this movie. It was one of the most entertaining films I've seen in 2023. And like I said, this could move up to number one easily in future. So in third place, it's Thanksgiving. Coming up in second place, we do have the movie Hostel. Now, this is a film that when I watched it back in the day, when it first came out, I didn't think too much of it, but the more I've watched it over the years, the better this movie has become for me personally. Now, this isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea. This is like the torture porn era, as they like to call it. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but people are tortured. Don't know if there's much porn in it. I suppose there's naked women here and there. But this follows these three backpacker guys who are traveling across Europe. They go to Amsterdam to smoke weed and get with prostitutes and stuff like that. And this guy says, you can go and get the best women in Slovakia. So they go, okay, we'll go there. And they go to Slovakia and meet these beautiful looking women, of like the guy promised. But it is all a bit of a setup for them to become part of this hunting club where they become the prey for the predators. And I liked how the movie felt like it could have been a little bit real. This movie feels real to me. I've always said that the scariest thing about horror is humans, and it is humans committing this despicable act. I've always thought for years after watching this movie, could this really happen? These characters are lulled into a false sense of security, and it just feels like a true horror movie to me. And we go to this place where they are just being tortured, where all these rich people are paying hundreds of thousands of pounds for these guys and other people who in the past to basically torture them whatever the way they want. And it's just, basically we've got to follow this main guy who's got to get out of, this situation, and you do root for him in the movie. You feel like it's very unfair on characters. The characters in the hunting club are just vile, horrible people. It's all a big money-making, human trafficking thing. And it just felt like I said, a realistic horror movie to me. Some really gory scenes in here. There's a woman who gets her eye burnt around and stuff, and at one point she sees it in the mirror and decides to kill herself. There's limbs being torn off here and there. It's not a very pleasant film, but for me, I love the atmosphere of this movie, and I love the whole concept. I love what Eli Roth brought to this subgenre, creating it alongside Saw, really, at the time, or resurging it, if you like, if there ever was one. And for me, I just think this is one of his more professional movies, if you like. There's not too much comedy or silliness thrown in here. Apart from the guy who plays the king of the swing at times, he can be quite funny. He's the comedic relief. But this is definitely one of them movies that sort of sticks to the horror, and I appreciated that Eli Roth done that there. So in second place, we do have Hostel. Coming up in first place, though, we do have Hostel Part 2. Now, this is probably one of the better horror sequels out there for me, and it does just surpass the first for me a little bit there. But this one, we've got like a gender swap, where instead of three guys, we have these three girls who are traveling across Europe, and it all starts off on this train and stuff. And again, they are lulled into a false sense of security on the train by a mysterious character who they meet there. Now, for me, it does follow, like, for me, this what I like about this movie is the lore that we explore here. There is a lot more we find out about the hunting club, how they operate, how they sort of target these women, and how they have this bidding war with customers. All these rich people are kind of bidding on them on the app, on the phones, and sort of having a bidding war of which one they can kill, and they all take the fancy, like, oh, they like the look of this girl, so they're all bidding and stuff like that, and it's going up to hundreds of thousands of pounds, and I liked how it explored that, and how the movie sort of takes it from the perspective of these three girls who are traveling, like the first movie did. It does a lot of that, but also we take the perspective of these two other guys who are part of this hunting club, who are bidding on these girls. So we see it from two different angles, from these two villains to these three innocent girls, and I thought that was really clever of the movie to do that. And what I liked about the two guys, one of them is really up for it, the other one is a little bit wary of it. He's not sure if he wants to do it or not, and they kind of swap as it comes to doing the deed. Like, their personalities swap a little bit. So I thought that was interesting. Some really gory scenes in here. The one with the chick who's hung upside down and the woman underneath it just slashing her and bathing in her blood. I mean, that's an upsetting scene to watch. Also, I liked how it explored more of these kids. They are in the first movie as well, but how they sort of run amok in the city and how the hunting club deals with them. There's a bit of an upsetting scene later on involving a young kid who is murdered here. But yeah, the main thing for me is exploring this hunting club and how it all shows all of, all the background to that, how they operate. I thought that was awesome. And we sort of see the elite of this hunting club and the higher up members, if you like. My biggest problem with this movie is it sort of does the Alien 3 and Terminator Dark Fate route at the start of the movie for the character you got behind in the first film. But for me, I think this is a pretty solid sequel, and I know we have a Hostel 3. Eli Roth did not direct that movie, so I haven't included it in this list, but I would like to see more Hostel movies, preferably with Eli Roth making a Hostel 4. I think that could be awesome. I would love to see more of this world, because we teased a lot of it in this movie. Well, not teased, we got a lot of it, but I would like to see more of that. So, for first place is going to be one of the better horror sequels of all time, in my opinion, Hostel Part 2. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this Eli Roth ranking video. What are your thoughts on Eli Roth? Don't forget to leave your ranking down below. Please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. It will really help me out if horror is your sort of thing, or dark cinema if you like. Thank you so much guys. You all take care, and I'll see you all in the next video.